All right. Good morning, everyone. Before I take a few of your questions, I want to speak briefly about an item that was on the Board of Estimates meeting. Now, my administration has always been focused on efforts to increase opportunities to connect our citizens, and we know that a robust broadband infrastructure is absolutely vital to the progress and the growth of our city. And while we've been an early adopter of many new technologies, it's clear that we have to do more. So in May of 2014, I named a task force of 27 individuals from government, from business, and from the not-for-profit sector to create a strategic plan for making Baltimore a smarter city. The final version of the Smarter City Task Force report was released today. It identifies key steps to integrate technology and innovative thinking into our city's culture, ensuring that we expand Baltimore's connectivity and that we create more affordable broadband access for Baltimore City residents. I look forward to working together in partnership with the City Council, the City Council President, and the Comptroller to implement the recommendations of the task force. A key factor in the task force recommendations is to bring a broadband coordinator to drive these efforts. So today, I was very pleased that the Board of Estimates passed a contract so we could announce that we are naming Jason Hardebeck to lead this collective effort. A co-chair of our task force, Jason will bring community partners together to develop strategic programs, initiatives, and projects that will support a comprehensive and innovative broadband plan for Baltimore City. He's been deeply entrenched in Baltimore's tech community for over 20 years. And considering he's only 21 today, that is a significant accomplishment. He founded an internet software company that was later acquired by Facebook and has led the Greater Baltimore Technology Council with a focus on digital inclusion and civic innovation. I'm confident that under his leadership, Baltimore City will take greater advantage of emerging technologies and truly become a smarter city. With that, I'd like to introduce Jason and again say happy birthday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. I just have a couple comments. Not that long ago, electric lights and running water were considered luxuries. And obviously, in today's day and age, it's just a basic fundamental part of a developed society. Broadband is becoming is going down that same path. It's fundamental to every citizen being able to fully participate in economic, educational, and social opportunities, and to realize our city's true potential as a world-class city. We need a ubiquitous and affordable broadband and consider it critical infrastructure. I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with the mayor, her leadership staff, our public and other elected officials, and other stakeholders in the city, including the Baltimore City school system, other educational institutions, private sector businesses, and private citizens. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Jason. And I want to thank my Deputy Mayor, Colin Tarbert, for his hard work on the Smarter City Task Force. And again, Jason, I'm looking forward to working with you. Before he has a seat, does anyone have any questions for Jason?
Yes.
Yes.
This is vitally important. We all know this for economies. What is the maximum that people who live and do business in the city of Baltimore can expect, considering that we can't seem to get FiOS in the city? And is that something you're going to work on?
Well, as far as the maximum is concerned, what we're looking at is figuring out how to leverage our existing infrastructure and assets. The city has a number of assets: fiber, conduit, vertical assets, and we also have a number of other stakeholders with assets that could contribute to that. The FiOS question is really something that I can't answer. It's a market-driven decision by a private company, but it's clearly one of the number one challenges and issues for technology-focused companies in the city. And our goal is to figure out how to provide that kind of ubiquitous and affordable access to both companies as well as residents.
So I'm not a broadband expert, but is it possible, technology-wise, is it possible to provide an equivalent of a FiOS?
Oh, absolutely.
product. I
Absolutely.
mean, Fios is a Verizon name.
Fios is a
Fiber
Verizon name, so it's
optic.
fiber optic, exactly.
So
And
is it possible for the city to have a fiber optic network?
the city already has a fiber optic network.
Okay.
What we're looking at is how to extend that and perhaps provide a way for companies such as Verizon, Comcast, and any other private company to be able to leverage those assets as well. That is certainly one of the possibilities.
To piggyback off of my colleague's question, from what I understand, Comcast has a 13-year exclusive on the city rates. This is based on what I read a couple of years ago on the topic. If that's the case, will there be work to try to get out of restrictive covenants such as that?
I would defer that to Colin as far as answering a specific.
Yeah, we'd really like, because this is like legend, myth,
Yeah.
mythology, okay? That, you know, the reason Verizon can't come in with Fios is because Comcast, you know, Verizon don't want to do business in the city, all that. So let's
I mean,
have a candid conversation, because we get asked about this a lot.
Well, I'll let you know,
Okay.
talk about urban myth. I mean, I was at a mall and they said at a Verizon thing, I guess the staffers of the little kiosk were, they had the question, when are you coming to Baltimore? When are you coming to Baltimore? When are you coming to Baltimore? So much that they just put up a sign, ask the mayor and the city council, to which I immediately called, someone texted me the picture, to which I immediately called the Verizon people. I'm like, I'm not 100% sure what you're telling your employees, but this is your business decision. I have nothing to do with it. So, you know, you all need to figure out what you're going to tell people. But, you know, certainly, yeah, I think that the easy scapegoat to all the world's problems is the mayor and the city council. But that's not necessarily the truth. But you can speak to the specifics of the lease.
Sure. Colin Tarver, Deputy Mayor for Economic and Neighborhood Development. I think part of the myth goes back to what is referred to as the franchise agreement, which is actually governed by the FCC. And I'm not the expert on it either, but based on the research that we did as part of the task force to dispel some of these myths, the franchise agreement is open to any cable company. We actually it can't be exclusive. They actually have the right to a franchise agreement, and the payment that is paid, which is a percentage of their cable revenues, as I understand it, is actually governed by the FCC. So there's no exclusivity that I'm aware of for Comcast or any other specific company that says, you know, Verizon can't compete. Part of the task force goal is to create more competition, because we think ultimately competition will, you know, provide not only more choices, but also in a market economy typically lowers the price of a service. So, you know, Verizon's explanation of why they don't provide Fios to residents, they may provide Fios to businesses. They do have business services
In the city.
in the city, and we can certainly give you a contact to follow up with Verizon. They were on the task force, and they did speak to that. There's no exclusivity. It's really what Jason said. It's a market choice for Verizon that they just haven't brought Fios to residents in the city. We would certainly welcome it. And there's nothing that would prevent them from doing that, but for their decision.
They would have to run cable though, right? To do that?
Yeah, they would have to do that or obtain fiber. They could lease it from other companies that have fiber. And in the task force report, and we can send out the link to everyone, there's actually a list of all the service providers of broadband. So we have some small companies, small businesses that provide it. Comcast is obviously the largest player, so people are most familiar with them. But there's not an exclusivity to
But
Comcast.
the residential choice is very limited. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
I think it's limited.
It is limited, but it's limited not by the franchise
No, it's
agreement.
limited by what's offered by the
Right.
private sector.
Correct.
So it's limited to Comcast, DirecTV, but then you don't have, that doesn't give you internet. There are a couple of commercial providers that I know that serve multifamily residences,
Mhm.
condominiums. But really, you're at the mercy of Comcast, am I correct? For broadband service?
I mean, there are other choices. I don't have a list in
Okay.
front of me,
But
but
that's the biggest.
I believe that's the largest, yes.
So, you know, are we talking about the idea of municipal broadband as something that has been floated elsewhere? Is that something we're talking
Yeah,
about?
that's a distinct possibility, and that's part of our work over the next 6 to 12 months, is to develop a strategy that effectively delivers municipal broadband. And I think it will end up being most likely a combination of our existing providers as we said, Comcast, Verizon, and any others that want to provide, and then filling in the gaps. It's not good enough to provide, high-speed bandwidth to certain parts of the city and not to others. So this is what we're really looking at, and if it means stepping in and incentivizing companies or providing a leadership to develop more capacity in underdeveloped areas, and that's what we'll look at.
So is a public option, if you will, on the table? Something that would be city-run,
Everything is on the table right now, absolutely.
And then I also want to ask about the conduit. The report a couple weeks ago that PG&E had offered to buy the public conduits under the city. How are you looking at the conduit as a broadband opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, conduit is an incredibly important part of a strategy going forward. I mean, it is literally gold mine under our feet. I can't get into what the real value is. I will say that what we look at and what the task force looked at is viewing these assets not as something to flip and monetize and privatize, but what's the greatest and highest public value that we can extract from these assets. So clearly that is something that will be critical, and it is obviously being utilized by the city now.
Is there a particular city in the United States that you look at and say this city is getting it right?
There are a lot of different efforts. Chattanooga always comes up, Nashville, some others, but it also depends on the particular assets that the city has. So some of these cities, also own public utility, so they have, electric power. They have a path to an individual house. We are looking at a number of different models, and I think ultimately, we'll look at what Baltimore has. We have some definite assets as well to figure out the best way to deploy this, and that's where this is not a decision that certainly I'll make on my own, or even a closed group within city government. We're looking at a very collaborative effort to pull together all the stakeholders in our city and even the surrounding regions to figure out the best way to do this.
One more on this, guys. Is this the first time the city's created this position? This is a new position, and could you briefly state some of your background?
Sure. As the mayor mentioned, most of my background has been in technology sector, startups, and the like. I've started several companies, and I've also had the opportunity to run several nonprofits, including the Greater Baltimore Technology Council, most recently.
You're managing partner at Machine Works, right? Baltimore Machine Works?
Yes.
You're going to continue on in that role. Sorry, I know you said one more question, but is that going to inform what you do at all? Do you think? No. Certainly that is a customer or user, just like any other technology company would be. We all benefit, right, from an infrastructure that supports innovation and startups.
Thank you very much.
Last name and official title, please.
Hardebeck, Hardebeck. It's the broadband coordinator.
B-E-C-K?
B-E-C-K.
And your name again?
It's Colin, Colin, and it's Tarbert, Tarbert.
Thank
Oh, what's
you.
your title, sir?
Deputy Mayor for Economic and Neighborhood Development.
Okay, thank you.
If I could get an easy one out the way, I'm asking this on behalf of a bunch of people who asked me whether it's the hotel or the parking garage. Wouldn't it be a lot easier to take a portion of those revenues and fund your rec center plan?
Well, when you ask the question like that, you're suggesting that there would be revenue from a hotel sale. As we spoke about this before, I made it very clear that the sale of...
No, the question, and let me clarify.
Yeah.
As opposed to selling the garage or the hotel, why not just keep both assets and then take some of the profits or some of the cash that they bring in to fund the rec center program? So
I think what you're suggesting is a nice question, but it doesn't make sense, because the amount of assets or amount of revenue that you would get would not support what we're trying to do with rec centers. I'm looking to put 40 to 60 million actual dollars on the table to build recreation centers. And what you're suggesting does not do any of that.
Isn't it, again, I'm asking on behalf of a bunch of people who have asked me that, so
I'm just trying to give you information so when they ask you, you'll have an answer for them. What I put on the table is an actual idea that puts real dollars on the table.
what I'm saying is not my suggestion.
Okay, so I'm just trying to help you understand what I've been talking about. The council president who put this concept on the table about selling, raised this idea about selling the hotel, he's on the hotel board. He's been at those meetings. He understands that if you sell the hotel now, you do it at a loss. The unfortunate part of this is that we're still talking about it as if it is a real option. It's not an option if you're trying to put dollars on the table to build recreation centers. I'm not interested in having useless conversations about things that don't put real dollars on the table. This is about trying to make the tough decisions and use the assets that we have in the best way possible to get real things done, not have debates about it. If you want to do that, you should be in Congress. That's what they like to do, have debates and not actually get stuff done. I'm focused on getting stuff done, putting real dollars on the table to build real buildings that would bring service to our community.
Mayor, a group that you just met with from Penn North Community Center came down. I think it was 25 kids, and they want funding. What did you tell them? What's your position on their request?
So the conversation that I had with the young people was not about funding, but with respect to what I know is the director's funding request. Part of the reason why I was really pleased with the agreement that I reached with the city council to put $4.2 million in additional resources. This is above and beyond all of the other money that is baked into the budget to support our young people. Because we understood the challenges of our times, we look for additional resources that we could put into youth programming, out of school time programming. And not only did we look to put that money in generally, but it was very important that we set aside a portion of that $4.2 million for grassroots organizations that have more heart and passion than paperwork, but that need the support to get established as a documented not-for-profit, so they could understand the business side of doing things, so they can run a sustainable program. Those efforts are being coordinated through the Associated Black Charities, and we've had with the director. I know that she's already met with at least 2 members of my staff. There are more meetings planned to make sure that she understands the resources that are available to her organization.
So there is some money out of that 4.2 that goes to grassroots community organizations, and the city is working with them to try to help them get that money. If
so absolutely,
okay.
The reason why it was important for us to set that aside for grassroots organizations is there has to be a legitimate, a certified entity to get to be able to qualify for public funds, and we don't want that to be a barrier for some of the good work that's being done. That's why we not only set those funds aside, but we set up a process so these organizations that want to be responsive, want to take advantage of the support that they have in the community to do good work, have the technical assistance that they need to qualify for public funds.
Madam Mayor, have any conversations taken place regarding security or policing the city with the upcoming hearing scheduled
Absolutely.
for the 6 officers? Could you
Absolutely. We've talked a little bit before about the work that has come out of our after action investigation. And I've talked about the fact that, while the after action is being done, we're not waiting to put the things in place that we know will better prepare us for the future. I've talked about the increased training that has been done for all of the officers who will be out on the street. We talked about the fact that equipment that failed us during the riots before new equipment has been ordered. We're testing that and making sure that the officers who will use it have tested it in real world examples. So the first time that they're using it, practically using it, is not out on the street. Commissioner Davis has spoken about the meetings that he's had with police chiefs from around the state to be very clear about the role of each public safety entity and how we're going to partner together. We've also talked about the stronger collaboration between MTA police, school police, and our police. So a lot of these things are being done, as well as tabletop demonstrations, and that's where all of the entities that would be involved in responding to unrest are in one place, gaming out different scenarios. So we have that experience baked in. We're also doing things, so that's sort of the public safety response, but we're also doing things to make sure that that our young people, as well as the bigger community, understand what the process is. Because sometimes it is because of a misunderstanding or a lack of understanding about what the process is and what's going to, what happens at which stage, that causes frustration and also causes bad information to go out that can exacerbate a situation that we don't want to get started. So we're working to put better information in the schools as well as in the community.
Madam Mayor, the board approved some grants for this vampire fingerprint technology. What kind of emphasis has the police department had on finding new innovative technology to help them solve crimes?
We're focused across the administration, focused every single day on ways that we can make government work better for the people that we serve. And the police department is no exception. The fact that we're having this conversation following that question following the introduction of our broadband coordinator is evidence that we continue to look every day for ways to innovate and ways to use technology to better serve technology and innovative solutions to better serve our community.
Commissioner Davis has said that because there wasn't a riot since the 60s, the police were very well trained on crowd control, but weren't necessarily trained on controlling a riot.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be the emphasis of new training. Do you know how much training that has been done since April until today?
I know that there have been training. There's been a series of trainings. I don't know. I can't tell you how many hours each officer has spent. I do know that we can get you that information.
Is there a concern that there might be some frustration that surfaces next week
Give me more specifics.
as far as the motions hearing that's scheduled for the 6th?
And that's why I talked about trying to make sure that we do our best to give the accurate information around what's going on. We have identified different potential flashpoints, over the course of the next year. And the motions hearing those are one of the things, and that's why we're going to focus on getting information out, being able to answer questions about that, and work with our other public safety partners so they're also giving information as well. I think, and while we're preparing, I don't want people to lose sight of the fact that the vast majority of the protests that we have had in Baltimore recently were peaceful. Even people that were frustrated and angry were respectful. The challenge is when a few people hijacked the peaceful protest for their own purpose. we can lose sight of that fact. I'm not worried about protests, because when Baltimore people show up to protest, they do it in a way that allows people to focus on the message and the concerns that they have, not on the behavior. And we're focused on making sure that those individuals who wish to hijack or exploit the challenges that we have in Baltimore, to make sure that they're not able to disrupt our communities again.
Last one, guys.
You mentioned that there was an educational effort going out to the community. Through what channels is that?
Through the schools, basically, is the main thrust. I think it will be helpful to start there with our young people, and then see if those messages can be tailored to a broader community audience.
So is that your staff doing?
Collaboration.
Or is it schools?
Collaboration.
Thank you, everyone.
All right?
Maybe one more? No?
We really want one more thing? Sure. It'd be nice
Do
to
you think
give
it'd
an
be helpful
estimate.
if the Freddie Gray case was televised?
Well, I'll say this. If it were televised and all the national media that were here came back and spent some time showing the Baltimore that we all know and love, not just the constant loops of a few hours of ugly unrest and protest, I think it would give us a chance to undo some of the damage that has been done. I think if it were televised and they all came back, it would give us what we call unearned media and positive press around all of the great community members that we have, the way that we have come together after the unrest, and they'd come and the reporters would come and bring their money and spend it and have a good time. I doubt very seriously that would happen. I think, unfortunately, the national media descends when there's tragedy, when there's violence, and when there's controversy. I don't think that that would happen.